Joe Rogan recently sat down with Arsenio Hall on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, and the conversation drifted into politics in a way that feels very familiar if you followed Rogan over the last decade. At one point, Rogan described himself as politically homeless, arguing that the American system forces people to pick sides in a way that doesn't actually reflect how most people think. According to Rogan, modern politics has turned into something like sports fandom. People choose a team, red or blue, and then automatically adopt every opinion associated with that side.
Like, what is to the right and what is to the left? It doesn't mean anything
it's accepting
anymore.
that a lot of things are valuable that are not a part of your party's philosophy. I think we have to be willing to compromise and move a little bit. And that goes for all politicians. We have to be able to move a little bit to be logical and serve all of America.
For sure. But I think the problem is parties all have to agree, and then they form ideologies that you cannot stray from. So if you're one of those people that says, like, hey, maybe an open border's a bad idea because terrorists can come through, like, oh, no, no one's illegal on stolen land. You know, you get... Everybody gets crazy because there's a party line that you have to stick with. This is today. Today, things are incredibly polarizing. But if you go back and listen to some of the things that Clinton was saying when he was running for president and when he was president, boy, these are like almost right-wing talking points in a lot of ways. But they're not. But it's not
a little
really,
to the right.
But it's not really right-wing. It's just sensible. Like, what is right and what is left? Left used to be... First of all, freedom of speech was of paramount importance. It used to be that they were very open-minded. It used to be like that education was of crucial importance, and that discourse was crucially important, and that you have to look out for citizens in sense of like having social safety nets and having welfare programs and food stamps and all those things which are really important for a society because not everybody is in the same position in life. Like,
and by the way, when you deal with left and right, you have to almost attach a year because we've seen parties change.
Yeah.
I'm always reminded that the Democratic Party was the party of the Klan, if you go far enough back. So I'm a Republican. I have to look at it all.
Rogan calling himself politically homeless is interesting because over the last few years, many listeners believe his political orbit has drifted noticeably to the right. That shift has become a recurring topic among comedians and commentators. Some longtime fans feel the tone of the show changed during the pandemic years when Rogan began criticizing public health policy, questioning mainstream media narratives, and hosting more guests associated with conservative politics. Rogan himself has rejected the idea that he belongs to any political camp, pointing out that he has supported policies across the spectrum, from same-sex marriage and drug legalization to gun rights and free speech.
I just don't see how a gay marriage in any way damages a straight marriage. I don't see it at all. I don't think gay people and gay people getting married in any way, shape, or form changes a bond that you have with your wife. It's just called marriage.
Still, perception matters. In the comedy world, figures like D.L. Hughley have openly argued that podcasters such as Rogan helped create the political environment the United States finds itself in today. Hughley has suggested that giving large platforms to political figures, including Donald Trump and others who echo his rhetoric, helped normalize ideas that once sat on the fringes of mainstream political conversation.
Listen, if you made your vote and you're sticking by your vote and you understand, but it's the people who were so integral in helping to destroy democracy who are pretending like as if they didn't know what they were doing. Like those podcast bros, I think they have a lot of blood on their hand. I think that they are complicit in destroying democracy. I think if you listen to a podcast for anything but any entertainment, that's why this thing's called Uncertain. I don't know shit. But if you listen to a podcast for anything other than entertainment, or maybe how to grow a plant or make something to eat. If you listen to a podcast for medical advice, you should fucking die.
So, DL, if you were to meet Rogan, chances are
I've met Rogan. I know him.
he'd probably be really warm. He'd probably say you're the same true 150 comedians as him. What would you respond back with?
First off, I didn't like the way he said nigga. I didn't like that happened, and I said that then. I didn't like how Spotify used the talents of black people. You know, they paid them nothing but use the cumulative, licenses and all that kind of shit to give him money.
But Rogan's politically homeless identity becomes more complicated when you zoom out and look at how audiences interpret his platform. Critics argue that even if Rogan doesn't see himself as belonging to one ideological tribe, the guests he hosts and the narratives discussed on the show still shape public opinion. The podcast has been described as a major cultural force that reaches millions of listeners and sometimes influences political conversations beyond traditional media. This raises a bigger question. Is the American two-party system partly responsible for the polarization Rogan and Hall were talking about? Comparing the United States to the United Kingdom gives an interesting perspective. On paper, the UK also looks like a two-party system dominated by the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. But in practice, the political landscape is becoming much more fragmented.
Could the Greens replace Labour? Well, for young people, they already have, as the party most supported by 18 to 25-year-olds. The Green Party has doubled its support from that age group, while Labour's has collapsed, according to our poll. In March, 16% of young adults supported the Greens. Now, it's 32%. Meanwhile, Labour's has fallen from 43% to 25%. Reform UK's support from young adults has also grown to 20%, while just 11% of them support the Tories. Just like Nigel Farage says, his ambition is to
replace the Conservatives.
The new Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, says,
"My message to Labour is very clear. We're here to replace you."
UK politics appears to be changing.
The United States has essentially operated under a two-party framework dominated by Democrats and Republicans since the Civil War era. And third parties rarely gain real power in Congress or state legislatures. That doesn't mean third parties don't exist. Groups like the Libertarian Party or the Green Party run candidates regularly. But the structure of American elections makes it extremely difficult for them to win meaningful representation. Rogan argued that money and political donations reinforce this system. In his view, massive fundraising operations and corporate donations create a political machine that locks the same two parties into place. The result is a system where voters often choose what Rogan described as the lesser of two evils.
Neither one of them make any sense to me. We need like a logical centrist government that like just says, look, there's a lot of things that we should do to make this country a better place. We can do these things, and we don't have to attach them to left or right, and anything that the left says that's logical, the people on the right, they immediately dismiss it because it's coming from the left. Mm-hmm. And that happens the same where the left does it to people on the right. It's dumb. It's a team thing. It's like the Dolphins versus the Raiders. Yeah. It's just you pick a fucking team and you lay that team
What a horrible
sucks.
game, by the way.
You pick a team and your team rules and the other team sucks. And there's a lot of people out there that are they're not open-minded. And they love a good, rigid ideology that they can adhere to. So now I don't have to think for myself. I have a predetermined pattern of opinions that I can just adopt, and I'll just accept those. And that's how I think, and that's what I'm going to argue with.
When I was young, I used to, in some jokes, say my heart is Democratic, but my wallet is Republican.
Yeah.
But it's not even that simple anymore. It's gotten much more complicated.
Yeah, much, much more complicated. It's like, everyone should be anti-fraud, whether you're on the left or on the right.
Or unless you're committing fraud.
Right.
Then,
right.
Then I'm pro-me.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people that, are certainly benefiting from fraud would like to dismiss it, whether it's the left or the right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like... We have a problem in this country where we have a two-party system. Two-party systems are inherently flawed because there's no fucking way that one side is going to represent you entirely. And it's much more likely if you have like 5, 10, 15 different parties that are all legitimate. Because we don't have another legitimate party. If you vote for Libertarian, and I've voted Libertarian before, you're basically saying, fuck these people. You know, fuck these people. I'm voting.
You're jacking up the Dolphin Raider game.
A lot of people don't see themselves as purely left-wing or right-wing. They might agree with parts of both platforms while rejecting others entirely. At the same time, the criticism Rogan faces from figures like D.L. Hughley shows how influential media personalities have become in modern politics. In the end, the Rogan-Arsenio conversation wasn't really about one policy or another. It was about the feeling that the current political system forces people into rigid teams. And when politics starts to look like sports fandom, the debate can become less about solving problems and more about defeating the other side.